or in the middle. It's great to see so many people here. Thank you all for coming out to the Visiting Writers Series, second reading of the semester. And I'd like to thank everybody in the English department and the Arts and Humanities Division and Gloria Castro for helping me organize events. And our next event will be in February, so savor this one. And then keep your eyes out for Jessica Alexander and V. Now in February, Jared Stanley in March, and Donald Ravel in April. So tonight is a reading and a celebration of the publication of the Oxeye Milwaukee Reader, which is, so the Oxeye Reader, which is published by Oxeye Press and Jordan Dunn, who's here tonight, and it publishes a publisher of many beautiful print objects, and also of a magazine that's organized, well, I'll read the statement that says it better than I can. As a journal of writing, art, and community, each issue features a work from writers and artists living in a distinct region or city. Oxeye Reader is modeled after the beautifully myriad, often evanescent and companionable little magazines that have supported the literary arts for decades. And you can find out more at oxeyepress.org. There'll be copies for sale here tonight, courtesy of Mike Wendt and Woodland Pattern, who have set up a book table also with books and other print objects from some of our readers. So stay afterwards for pizza and other food and to meet the readers and take a look at their books. The editors of this edition were Jenny Gropp and Laura Solomon, the co-directors of Woodland Pattern. And I just want to read a paragraph from the introduction. They say, as we've been lucky to learn, Milwaukee surrounds and fortifies you with its poets. There are too many brilliant lyricists in this area to gather in one publication. So just as the rivers converge here and move through to the greatest lake, we encourage you to experience this particular confluence of poets as an exercise of appreciation and as an invitation to learn even more about the many other poets emerging and who have emerged and will emerge from this place. This place, writ large, Milwaukee and environs, stretching as far, at least as Kenosha. And there will be a reading tomorrow at Woodland Pattern Book Center in Milwaukee at 7 p.m. with 14 more poets, so the riches will continue and you'll get to read more than they'll read tonight in the reader itself, so please take a look. And the way tonight's event will work is rather than formal introductions, we're just going to hear from each poet in a certain order, and then that poet will read from the list that I have conveniently hidden here on the music stand, name the next poet and welcome them to the podium. So we're going to hear poet after poet without having to hear me 10 times, which is great. And I'm very excited to begin the evening with a poet freshly returned from a year in Slovakia doing translation work on a Fulbright. So please welcome Peter Berzinski.
Thanks so, I don't know if you hear me okay? Okay. Thanks so much, Rick, Carthage College, everyone for having, Jenny and Laura, of course, for editing the anthology, Jordan with Oxeye Press. I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so glad to see this beautiful anthology. I'll be honest, though, when I got the email yesterday, I was really nervous to hear that I was going first. But I've also been told that I'm a hard act to follow, so I'd like to thank my fellow readers for coming tonight as well. A gilded lining. I'm so baroque, my poverty has frills, my poetry trills, and baby, oh baby, I've got stanzas for a baker's dozen of dusted dark clouds stretched golden on an endless sky of anxiety. Oh, I got stanzas. I got stanzas like I got bills. Proeresis. Don't smoke. Let harmony be your canvas. Imagine concrete miasma. Think, approach metaphor, but never fashion electric silhouettes of grace. Compose you, do life. Experiment, give up on death and the dead, smear glass and chisel an absurd monument that is soft with joy. Capture, paint, music, pain, suffer only, rhythm when you would, dazzle. Or make waste if you have to. Perform, live. Write, bold this ink. And the next 3 poems are new. I wrote them in Slovakia. So they go from funny to more serious. I was never in a fist fight for Maria Luisa and the young woman at McDonald's circa 2011. I was never in a fist fight, but I almost was, while dressed as Peter Pan. The poem should end there, but it does not. I have never needed to be in a fight. I assume the privilege of this husky, pale blonde, green, blue, yellow, gray-eyed body spared me. But I got close one night with another hefty white man, was berating the cashier for not giving him enough fries at the Chinatown McDonald's, wearing my Peter Pan Halloween tights and feathered cap, no cap. I asked him, somewhat politely, to consider the price of potatoes and the cost of what he would do destroying that poor woman's evening, an evening that would go on with more beer-battered drunks like me early into the depths of tomorrow. I told the hungry Hippocrates that I would not want to fight him, but I would if he did not stop abusing that young woman. Her eyes were saying what she could not, what my privilege could. He looked up and down, spat a little, and in thinly veiled homophobia told me to prance back to the village in my tights. I looked at him and he glared back at me, paused and left. Patrons applauded as I shook my head and for some stupid drunk reason said, white people. See, his McDonald's was very special. It was the only one in New York City that had sweet and sour, a registered trademark, in a pump. Just like ketchup. It's free in America, LOL, isn't it? And its bittersweet sugar brushed my lip as I shoveled my McNuggets. The young woman thanked me, but with the heavy resignation of crimson centuries punctuated, flickering in her eyes, as I left to go outside and smoke approximately 2 cigarettes before hopping on the M to Knickerbocker Avenue. I saw the rounded angles of that man, explaining to some police what had happened. They took notes with rapt attention. I crossed the street, finished my Parliament full flavor, met eyes with the man once more, as his eyes met mine with shock and expression that said, ooh, ooh, officer, there he is, the bandit who made me feel bad. I ducked down the subway steps and never saw him again. Look at me. Wielki polski pan, proszę pani I panowie, to jest jakiś głupi Peter Pan. Weeks later, I asked the police to help my neighbor to stop being beaten by 8 men on my block as I walked home. After calling the operator had asked if they had a weapon, and I should have said yes because no one would come. And the cops I stopped after the call failed, drove off, and no one else ever came. There were certainly more important crimes to solve on some other godforsaken island where money grows like potatoes and poverty grows on trees. I hope I'm good at time. The next two are very short. Okay. A beautiful profession. Zdobędziesz piękny zawód za serwice szkoły zawodowej. Painted by Arthur Nakshimborski in the Museum Sztuki in Łódź. No doubt you'll learn a beautiful profession. There's also no doubt you'll suffer for it. And you'll do so gladly, glumly, as wheels. The heft of your poetries must not go unturned. And finally, the refugees, a secret other, enormous, peculiarly full, roused with stress, seclusion, oddness, the thing itself, geography revolving slowly, the green questions, and now the constellations of stiff eyes, old and grayish, they lived like jewels, something absurd, permanent. And that was precisely the joke, the rhythm of them. Sorry for the corny joke at the beginning. I guess I'm full of cheesy humor. Do I read the whole bio or just introduce?
No, just
okay. Well, I'm very grateful to be followed by the incomparable Brenda Cardenas.
Yeah, I'm good, I think. Oh. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So thank you to Rick Meyer for hosting us, and to Chuck Stebleton for bringing his class, to all of you for being here, to Laura Jenny Woodland Pattern for editing, and to Jordan Dunn for creating the beautiful book. I'm going to read 3 poems. The first one is not in this book, but it is so appropriate for the season that I thought I'd read it, and then the other 2 are in the Oxeye Reader. This first one is called Ofrenda de Otoño, which means offering for autumn or autumn offering. A flurry of chickadees unfurls from birch trees as red fox loiter in a commune of sunflowers. Sorrow scattering Xochitl seeds, free fall of food we will squirrel away for the months when snow crags climb to garage roofs. Also gather your ripe berries. Venado, your red maple leaves. Murciélago, your mosquitoes. Chapulín, your tiny violins. A traffic of bitter winds y carambanos are knocking at our doors. I offer you this molcajete de cominos, crushed cloves y coraje, chile ancho, hechizo de bruja. This stone has hissed like a radiator, crackled like a hearth, smoked like a shell of sweetgrass, una benedicción. And then from the reader, this one's called Brother. I wrote it for my brother who died way too young at 52 of heart failure. Brother, beginning with a line by Robin Riegler. My pain is a cloud that might be saying goodbye. It waves its plump little hand and sails into blue. I imagine a fist pump and wink, mischievous smirk to rival your Cheshire grin. It took a year before I began to wake without memory of missing your last words, because by the time I arrived, they had all flown north in search of a cool lake breeze rustling between aspens, the loon's Llorona wail ghosting midnight's misty waves, knotty pine walls of the tiny room where we slept 3 to a bed, comforted by dim yellow light shining through cracks and by sounds of our parents, grandparents drinking beer and slapping cards down on the oilcloth just outside the drawn curtain we pretended was a door. And then lastly, this is called, very different tone to this one, Subtraction and Addition. A night minus husband equals deep sleep, where you dream about husband doing things he would never do. Leave you in a corner so he can party with celebrities on a barge out to sea. Meanwhile, you've accumulated a third brother who is aware of his and your departed sibling, but won't utter aloud that family minus brother equals hole in the bottom of the ship. He laughs when you ask him to paddle you to husband, who holds a glass of bourbon up to the moon and howls while spinning like Michael Jackson, something husband would never do. You minus words equals empty space equals panic, stuck screen, gunked vocal cords. Yes, a woman can shoot blanks, turn into a hot air balloon that silently farts its way into a thicket of shame. Why you mute, Bubble? You've always been smitten with the mutable. Clownfish, chameleon, seahorse, selkie, ice cube? Yes, we read what is in parentheses. You should be the trumpeter that calls them all home. Thank you. And it is my great pleasure to invite to the stage my friend Brian Cherry.
Hi guys. Let's see. This is from the reader. It's called "Good Intro," and it's funny because this poem has changed a little bit. Even like they're just kind of growing objects, do what they will. But this is called "Good Intro." It's actually the last poem in my book, Death Moan. I've obtained a heart like a rock, a stop, drop, hatchet rocket. Glare on red, and is at the bottom of the deepest sea. I feel like a muted symphony, all kinds of resonance deferred, a signal from marbled maze noise, the hum of extant ecstasy trembles in death steps. The battle hymn of the Banana Republic, fireflies, drip, drop, drip, momentary luminous glimpses at the stillness in the somber night, as we grasp for seconds of pleasure, as we gasp, pulling in a breeze that might take us, help us forget, maybe even forgive the greed deaths and hollow crops born of fallow, grieving fields. God shed his grace on thee, so forcefully so, in fact, as to break the covalent bonds, the chains, the lynchings, the broken land promises, the abject fear, the heart-wrenching notion that perhaps this can be better. Those oh so very human tillers that have/are tended/tending to these bloody beatific acres so that it could someday perhaps perish and thusly be reseeded upon new entangled collage collisions in a fashion that could be thought of as the only comic tragic culmination where closure shows itself to be a smirking plateau on the way toward apparition, artifice, acclivity. Is that 5 minutes? Then we'll do one more. This is called "You're Gonna Make It After All." Shoe stores burning, I'm flexing out front. This convenient circus crawls. It lets them keep cozy gentrification chimera perch. Minnesota nice upside your head. Always heard you ain't gotta be scared to get your ass kicked. I am the reverent friction of the ghost, the one who convinced me to burn, the one chained to my clammy comfort. My skin is apocalyptic. My skin is war helicopters over protest cities. Apparitions do not fear, they do the scaring. Apparitions systematically pop and lock to the rocket's red ass glare. Thank you. And I'll just, kind of echo what everybody's been saying. It's so nice to be able to introduce my friend, Louis Friedman, to the stage.
I'm going to read with Rick as well. And Rick will start.
Time. I'm taking apart my ghost until my ghost is parts laid out on the bench, where it suggests the creature found here on the beach after they tore down the factory between the time when we were born and the time when we reached the world. The graves are open there, and bits of bone make holes in the sand where we have a life between the rebar and concrete. These things trust that they are there even after I went home and wrote them down. But when I set the rusted sheet metal twisted into the shape of a dress, which stands without its dummy on the desk, the sand falls out of it, and when I hold it up, the 11 distinct stars still visible in my small notebook are in an even smaller notebook, millions of stars hidden as revealed in these moving clusters, to whom I am related by neither blood nor law, but the situation being repeated. In my next workshop, I would like to have revealed myself to be a bare foot on a sewing machine treadle, wearing the cut-off end of a thread.
I want something other than time. I'm like building a model of my ghost. Like the relation is to my ghost, not the world I'm building it in. I repeat, I can't put myself or us or the world this is in my ghost's place. My ghost doesn't care if I remain an ego. Am I making myself clear? Everything is already form, except for my ghost, who is nothing to me perceptually, but a glimpse of some grimaces covering the formlessness of like some kind of mouth void. The inhibitions and the lifting of inhibitions around what I can say put and return my parasitical ghost into each event that happens to or as me. There's a condition of failure to all of this. I'm allowed to possess nothing. In my next incarnation, I want to be ghost instead, to be schema at the expense of content. I'll balance a beam with middle my mouth.
Time. Is it not possible, it being that I am not uncommon tall, that I should dress me as a woman and therefore hide in my heart the courage that women often keep there? I have a feeling I recognize the hour, but now I've dropped the book and can only repeat the timbre of the text without illuminations. These Barak sentences, the ones I learned from you, who learned them, so you claim, from me, leave me so far from the source that the hairy stools of a coyote exposed on the flat rocks, now that the snow has melted, inspire in me a more going-in disposition than I had originally conceived. When we studied the two burls halfway up two trees, you said I had ignored an ordinary tree in the group of three. You told me to look up. All the trees were moving without effort. It was very peaceful there, as if one was dragging a harp along the trail, though to be clear, the noise wasn't changed by absence into the silent sounds, except as we did bear it.
I want something other than time. What we can't understand, we can't but make. A miracle in place, like a spanner set to sit upon the sea. A mind which, fleeced of its fillings, boggles a stammer in the thoughts around the writing as it's being written. Hibernating in the moonstone background of our resplendent decay, is it all fusion and loss, ready to splice into concurrence, any two nor three things, ready to turn the question towards a battered globe that's been all along in this very room, and then in a mutage exit this fixed rejoinder into a continued hush where microbe and force field are becoming one, no three. The refurbished arms are then resealed before the as-new packaging is fired shut. I want something other than time. I begin with a preliminary remark, a tell-all kind of remark. To be a patient is to be free of time. But to be a patient is to be low-spirited, is to find that the inversion of suffering experienced in crying is inverted again through repetition. Is it possible to usefully abandon hope? At least if we keep on hoping, we'll die with a harness on. I lift a question, a different question, and I store it for later. I haven't asked this question yet. I'm feeling a little pushy. a little pissed off in these corroded shadows. I'm like the future is blue, as though that were a meaningful spell to foretell the future. And then a doubling sequence is like the power of the generalized breath. Maybe it is. Like if I breathe, I hope. I hope my inexorable way of living never becomes the subject of investigation for our totalitarian state. And now the question, not worth saving. Will they ever ask me to donate my eyebrows?
Time. I always end by interrupting, to say I am lying on the floor, looking out at the headlights of cars splitting into two loops in the window set at right angles to each other, like a self-portrait mirror and the artist I spent the night rehearsing. But to be attentive, you have to usefully abandon trauma and hear the voice in your head in the mouth of the puppet you are dangling over the river. When will we notice we are who are dying, having walked around until the buildings began to move, revealing their shape in a piece that had been removed? I'm walking inside the pipe that carries the sewage down many flights of stairs to the artificial meadow lined with elephant-sized hills, between whose rumps the cars flash until the whole thing reappears in a heap of excess road salt with no ice to melt. I'm stunned at the power of sight, standing here in need of all the senses. The green water is the future between irregular ice sheets I notice once fit together and want to walk on them without sinking or being seen, to be within the ice triangles, within triangles of light, 3 pairs of tripled triangles, each with brighter triangles inside them, each with one triangle slightly taller than the one next to it, all isosceles triangles, wondering if I will ever again climb these mountains. And next up is Annie Grizzle.
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much to everybody. The smell of artificial sun in the sewage district, once again with my hazy little curb. I stroll along the seam of the carbonated river beneath the brutalist architecture, watching Gen X lovers pick concrete for each other. Have I enough pondered the sound of sinking or the slow float of twigs? In the dumb light, I acted as if I wouldn't meet Mary Knoll by the water, becoming the middle, clutching our bellies tight, erupting prudishly into the nectarine awakening, the glittering ribbons of shit I flop from one decade to the next. In that moment in the sculpture park, in the water, near the scraggled floor of the internet, I discovered with my head propped up by my hand, with my arm bent on the bed, with my legs curled under 3 blankets, with my feet sticking out in socks, in the crumbled way a memory presents, that surprise as a stepped pause slushed, pink as a color in snow. I am the spit river, I discovered. In each duality lies the start of another. Melody without dependence of a spine, the way light drips from a window and on to the snow at night is how I feel about time. Dead trees as a word, ice as a word, how you take it as a sentence, glacial and erratic, tilted to the lip of the tree. Sometimes the atmosphere is so still I must be contained, a naive surface. The wisp has nothing to do besides become me, head like prairie smoke. In soliloquy, grant me the forest where I met clung air, some raven of scent, rewetted for the flight, rewetted, waxed juice I'll seat on the flight, rewetted, unpliable matrix of my flight. The eye is an oil twisting from what it is taught. Today the deer are hunted in their own throats and rabbits dehead the marsh. Morning erupts prudishly into the green awakening. The glittering bulbs of sewage grow from one decade to the next. Alive for the backwash of this afternoon. Drop this part. A head buzzing, head as earth. Earth as the nectarine as time, time as forms, forms as fragments, fragments that repeat. Alive and soft and damp step echo, alive and soft and moss breath repeat. Forms from spores that are carried by the wind and currents and water, forms from outgrowings of the brain. Forms from tree belly genetics, forms from forms that must enter symbiotic relationships with fungi, forms that are forgotten. Forms that are forgotten, forming, forms that are forgotten, forming, and left to rot, repeat, and left to rot in lineage. Forming, repeat, and lineage, forming, left to rot. Alive and soft and damp step echo, alive and soft and damp moss, breath, echo, alive, and I wake with eyes the sound of nectarines. Thanks. And now, very honored to bring up Mauricio.
Hi, everybody. Special thanks to the conscripted students that Chuck has dragged in here in his sound box. No, really, it's okay. I'm glad Brenda's laughing. It's good to laugh. In dark times, that's all we have, Peter, right? Laughter. Behind this poem that I'm going to read, I'm going to read most of the poem, but I took one section out, is the former president. And if you haven't registered to vote, register to vote, have a plan to vote. Doesn't matter who you vote for, but think it through. Do your research. That president is behind this poem. There was a pandemic that turned into an endemic in which, to date, 1,120,000 people from the United States have died. 12 masks, 12 máscaras, after photographs by Russell Monk. Uno. One mask is the back of the copper hand covering nose and mouth at the desert cemetery, the palm still powdered with lime. The second figure with black and white accordion is La Muerte, breathing in, fanning and pushing out. Dos. Frances playing with her toddler Pablito, her mascarilla a slick banana leaf, folded over twine, then twice tied at the nape and the equator behind the eyes. This before she fills the deep metal pot with fresh nacatamales. Tres. Tin snips, bear clips the outline of angels' wings through a can of motor oil found on the floor of the Silurian Sea. Looks me in the eye, that bear, says, Bruto. Says, Bruto. Handing me the steel mask, sharp as feathers. I dare you not to wear it. Te oso. Cuatro. Now the orphan to the child, bisabuelita, returns to her sewing room after 20 years, cutting olive diamonds from your father's double-knee work pants. Hooking gum bands for the ears, FaceTime, last thing he told you from his hospital bed, like trying to breathe through cling wrap. Cinco. Across Africa, se Ubuntu, se Maya, se Iwa, sin agua in Igbo. I am because we are. In Maya Quiche se inlakech alaken. Tú eres mi otro yo. Tú eres otro yo. You are my other eye. My other eye. Seis. In a black and white photo, we saw the straw-hatted campesino don a mask cut from a cardboard map of central Mexico. Sinaloa to the north, Puebla to the south, smack in the middle where the mouth should be, Zacatecas, Zacatecas. Siete, shielding the center of the face of the newborn girl, a scorpion, light as baby's breath, still as a pin. Ocho. This was my student who I noted for months hadn't said a single word, not even here, until the week that half my face shut down with bells. Then, when we were the only two left in the classroom, my sister had it, and now she's fine. Nueve. This is the Braille mask of Amelia adorned with metal escapularios. It calms her to feel them. This is the surgeon's mask. This is the exhausted teacher's mask asked to teach in 2 modalities. This is the mask of unused N95s. This is the filthy blue one, blowing down the street. Diez, Ernesto, my Zapotec friend, was once cacique and host of the Big Spring Festival. He's a weaver, a husband, a father to 7 cubs. See the white rooster limp in his teeth. That's my favorite tapete, gray fox, licking knots of iron blood from his fur. Once. Here is Pedro on August 3, 2020. He'll remember the still one who never got a name. He wears a pulp crucifix on his face, woven strips of tanned palm. You can see his shaved chin below the 5 paper roses, pink if they weren't gray and white. Doce, great horned rounds on the dark cliffs above Lake Michigan. Feathered disc, a mask to catch, unprotected. Uneven ears to triangulate. Waves of. Thank you, everybody. And Roberto Harrison, my friend and neighbor.
Really amazing to have this, hold this. It's beautiful. It has a lot of amazing, beautiful stuff in it. Wow. I'm grateful to be a part of it. I'm just going to read the first poem that I have here. Prehistoric Origins of the Future. Death marks the red for the end of the stop.
Sorry, could you lean into the
Yeah. Prehistoric Origins of the Future. Death marks the red for the end of a stop, by a light made to weep in the straw as one sees. As many attach to the force of the light and become, return for the circle through heat and a face. They move to decide what the force weaves about, with forms to become with a jump and a gate and a cue. They follow the ice and log to endure in a view, with a cut to perceive and attend as a sigh. 4 zooms as they carry 3 goats for the news. They stroll with attachments of down in their heads. Each launches a boat, the 2 and the 3, to whittle a nerve and believe in the 4. Without the protector of time and a foul relief, the icicles mark the alarm and the snow becomes steep. And the force to be light for the fire, we end up rebinding the wood. We as a force the removal of worms, to return the allotment and mark of free earth, with windows and faces and interface haunts, on the power left sign to believe. Next is writer of beautiful poems and soon mother-to-be, Ahi Lee.
Hello. I'm thankful to be here. Thank you for being here. I'm thankful to have 2 poems, or read 2 poems from the Oxeye reader that are also in my book, Asterism. Am I close enough to the mic? I can't tell. So I'll be reading 2 poems. Naturalization as migration. At a pottery sale, I bite nothing. Only consider this turquoise red base baked into a gloss of rivers, slightly slanted to the left, so cheap, perhaps a uniqueness mistaken for a mistake. I'm convinced of its fragility, its ceramic pelvis, the space it would take up in the immigration bag my parents passed down to me, dark, foldable closet I've dragged from country to country. When I was younger, I orphaned many books. Now I just carry this guilt, a jealousy for roots, a garland of delicate hair seeping slowly into soil, into vase. But I'm no perennial green. I have feet, eager to get naked, moved by the seasons, not here yet. They ask me to chase their undulating animal dreams. Second poem is called When a Language is Said to Be Lost. When a language is said to be lost or prodigal, it's really underway. This is the principle of mass conservation, that memory can be exhausted into feathery gray ashes, but the mind, like hair, can't help but absorb, carry the smell of smoke wherever it goes. Belonging splits easier than an atom into being, longing, and language, yes. I have known it to erode into dust, but also birth a new mountain within the mouth. Thank you. And I'm so excited to welcome next the extraordinary Richard Meyer.
Sorry.
Oh, no.
I read the.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Also the extraordinary Sam Perkins.
Well, hello, everyone. Hey, oh, yeah. Very happy to be here, very happy to echo so many of the thanks to the space, the captive students, my fellow readers, and everybody that took part in making this collection come true. I'm so thrilled to see it. Oh, what's up? Let's see. Anybody know what a mortgage like what that means, like in French, dead pledges. Like, it's kind of wild. So when I wrote this poem, I did not have a mortgage. I still don't. And let's go for it. Mortgage. Until death do us part, my mind on my money and my money laid out along the edges of a modest tomb. As I lay there, I am a landowner. I am finally a landowner. Mort. In life, somebody must die so that I can afford the soil beneath my sleep. Love in a legal document. Waiting, 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 impatiently waiting, waiting. The golden cow was laid at the trunk of somebody's family tree. Gage. Engage this? No, please. Entwine our pocketbooks. Entwine our dead family as our bodies used to. Not now. We've grown so tired. We groan at old people. We made a promise with the bloody seed, planted it, built a house, and died inside a different one. Dead pledge. If you pulled it apart, is it ever really, or was it beautiful? Dead as in everything, pledge as in my breath, falling out where it lands, catching sighs as they drop. Death is catching as my broke friends died. Now death is a beginning, I sign my name. All right, one more. Man, I was in a rough spot writing these poems and kind of coming back to them. I was like, man, I was locked inside and I was real mad about it. Upward departure. Case study of heartbreaking blood flow, bones, and how often somebody orders beef marrow, convincing oneself that it tastes delicious. It does not taste like blood. It does not smell like blood, does it? It is not blood, it is blood's birth mother. It bleeds into one's imagination, and that's it. Indirect blood is its only applicable form. Jellied bones are its only pleasurable form. It is not to be sought, but I'd like to smell it today. Case study of every way I can say arrest in a sentence. Embrace hypocrisy and become so elated, stoned off the grimness of joy. Abolish prisons, abolish the police, abolish capitalism, abolish the prison industrial complex, and yet abolish all slimy fuckers to the penal walls if standing. Expectations say that I should shit mercy, and yet reality moves me to acknowledge shackles, only should they sit on the legs of the shackler. Case study of the minutiae at large. Analogies lost like dead love buried, and how sometimes politics fall from fingers and make no sense. I want to speak on the taste of blood in my brain, the climate, not literally, but literally and not, the trepidation irrevocably married to relief, the thing that happened today. I saw this poem singing, sighing quietly between stanzas. I wanted profundity, not a chasm between alluding, ascribed, meta, but poetry enjoys forsaking its author, humiliating its reader, and culling joy. Today, I am relieved and a little peeved. Tomorrow, and for all days, blood everywhere. Make it stop, but first, retribution. Ooh, really was it? All right. Many thanks to all, and here to shut the house down. It's Antonio Vargas Nieto.
Thank you so much for everyone that helped put this together. It's really nice to read it alongside friends, past teachers, past classmates. Yeah, I'm really honored to be here. So I have 2 poems. Consolation. Wind chimes swing silently in your absence. By light of silvery moss moon, are we really that different? We are so small we get lost in blooms, tangly and tangible. With lungs full of lyric, like morning bird, I recite your airy qualities. Sitting with pencil and paper and pondering, my sentiment toward you must be what it felt like millennia ago, tracing the movement of celestial bodies. You forget the meaning of your own tattoo. In another hemisphere, archaeologists can't decipher a hieroglyph. Oops. Green line. Elongated megalenic cloud, missing angel, look to Venus. Main sequence expanse, ultraviolet drowning, synchronized lung, proximity, collapse. Unfixed, indirect center, gravel satellite, headless self-observance, my inside, my insight, afloat with mysterious ease. Clustered, vacuous fractions, rearray, the me in melody. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all the readers. That was amazing. Give a hand to all of them at once. So good. Those are your neighbors. Believe it. So I'm going to run upstairs and get the pizza.